Today, I wanted to share a vulnerable and personal story. And I'm sharing this story because my main sort of message is that I want people to understand, I want women to understand, I want anyone that's going through this to understand that your experience is important and your emotions are valid. Because in the story I'm about to share, it's just so often that women are left to deal with the emotional burden of the fallout of their relationship and carry the emotional burden for themselves, carry the emotional responsibility for the kids and the situation, while the partner does just sort of like resigns himself of all responsibility. And I know this is not all male female dynamics, but I'm speaking to the woman or to whoever is the hurt person who feels as if their experience in this whole thing is not seen, is not honored, is not validated, and is not understood, because that has been my experience. I have been feeling like it's the frustration of trying to express my hurt, my process through this has been so frustrating because, of course, the children come first, of course, number one, but the person who has been hurt, their experience is just so sort of brushed to the side, or not approached with the honor that of compared to what they're actually going through, what they're actually dealing with. So I share this story today to say, I see you, I heal you, I hear you. Your experience is valid, your emotions are valid. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that, especially as women, and we are the ones who are then carrying a lot of the emotional responsibility of the children afterwards. And you putting your emotions first, you putting your experience first, it's really important because everything is flowing through you, everything is coming through you, and you taking care of yourself is really important. So I have some notes here that I'm just going to read through because this came out of um, a journaling session I was doing the other day to just release what was coming up for me. I also apologize if I'm a little bit flat because I have just been so emotionally drained these last few days. Just, I'm telling you, the frustration of trying to get someone to understand the level of impact of their decisions, and they just are not willing to or able to understand that, is extremely emotionally draining and leaves you feeling so invalidated and frustrated. Like, the level of frustration is something that I just cannot understand. To try to get someone to care about things that they're doing that are hurtful when they're just detached is honestly frustrating. So if you are in that position, I want to say, I see you, I hear you, and your experience is valid. Okay, so I'm sharing this story because it actually helps so much to feel understood. And one of the most frustrating parts of this process has been not feeling understood. Like, the feeling that my pain or my experience is just not comprehended. Also we're met with things like, you need to get over it, he doesn't care, like, you need to get over it type of thing. And that, obviously is the goal. But if we could just get over it, I guarantee you, we would just get over it. But when you're someone who was in a relationship, who was in the relationship emotionally invested, emotionally in integrity, you were showing up committed to your part of the relationship, not just like during the actual time of the relationship, but afterwards as well. As the ex-spouse, as the partner, as the mother to the children of this person that was in the shared family dynamic, when you are still considering that family dynamic and the other person continues to make decisions without consideration of that system, of how those decisions are impacting that system, but you are making decisions that are considering how they're impacting that system, is extremely frustrating. And this idea of like, just get over it, just move on, is something that obviously we would all do, but the continued hurt and the continued mishandling of choices and decisions, and then the continued lack of responsibility or lack of consequence, is something that is extremely frustrating. And you can't really just ignore those frustrations, because then what I find for myself is, if I try to do that, then I end up like angry and resentful. And then that's what I'm bringing into the space, is like anger and resentment. And that's not what I want to bring into the space. That's not what I want to be in the space that is a family system where my children are also existing in. So this experience of I'm being emotionally responsible for my part of things and the other person is not. And then the feeling of having to negate that or navigate that pain and hurt and the results of those consequences for yourself and for your kids and for the system is honestly too much for the woman to handle on her own. And I just want to honor the fact that this ends up being put on the women's shoulders. It ends up being the responsibility of the woman, of the mother, to take care emotionally of the children, to take care physically of the children, to be responsible for the children and herself, all while having her experience of what's happening be minimized and invalidated. And understanding and validation, and then the proper response that comes from someone actually understanding what you're going through and validating it is so helpful to actually healing. For someone to say, wow, like, I get it. Like that is a lot. It's a lot for you to be continuously hurt. It's a lot for you to have to show up in a way that is healthy for your family, all while the person who is hurting you continues to do hurtful things. And it's looked at as your experience is like, you just need to get over it. And that invalidation is not helpful. And for someone to just be like, whoa, that's a lot. I get it. Wow. Like it must have been a lot to have just had this blindside confession of betrayal after 11 years of being with someone to them not showing up for the healing process of the harm that they did, and then for them to continue to make decisions that were hurtful. Like, holy cow, like that's a lot. Like that understanding and that validation is so important to your healing. It's important to you feeling seen and heard and understood. And so I really am making this video so that if you are someone who is going through this, if you are someone who is carrying the weight of the emotional burden that somebody else has caused based on their decisions, their betrayal, their how they're deciding to show up in the system, then I want to say that I see you and I hear you. Okay. I cannot say that enough. So in my case, as I'm sure in many others, the person who causes the pain doesn't show up for the healing and is actually more concerned with managing their own feelings than the feelings of the person that they hurt. And that makes healing really hard because it leaves the healing completely up to you. Which is a lot, for you to, and for me, for example, I'm doing the work. I'm a therapist, I'm a healer. I do the work, I do the healing work. And it's not so much that I'm not doing the work to heal myself, because honestly, I feel a million gazillion times better. It's that there is continued hurt and then continued mishandling of situations that are leading to more hurt. And so this is where the problem lies, where it's like the person continues to show up in harmful ways and you continue to be hurt in those ways. And then as time passes, people are kind of like, you need to be over this already. It's not really how emotions work. Emotions don't really work as this thing that you cut on and you cut off. Some people clearly can do that, but then they end up making bad decisions because they're actually not feeling the consequences of their choices. But if you are feeling the consequences of your emotions, if you are feeling your emotions, if you were emotionally in integrity, if you were emotionally invested in a situation, if you care about the situation and the outcome, then you are going to have some emotion about how it's unfolding and how it's unraveling, which is sort of where I've been at, where it's, I was committed to my family and also the family system. And so I care about how this system is impacted. And if there are two people in the system, mother and father, and two children, and one of the people are making poor decisions, the impact of those is going to impact the whole system. And one person cannot be the only one trying to mitigate the impact of those choices. The other person has to always also take responsibility for that. And so if that is you, I see you. Okay. just repeat over and over again. Um, and I think, and I see, and the reason why I wanted to hop on here is because I see this experience in so many women. They are hurt by their spouse, cheated on, lied, betrayed, and their spouse doesn't hold space for the hurt that they've caused. And in fact, they often carry on, seemingly unfazed or off the hook emotionally and in every way, while the woman is left to not only deal with the betrayal, but also the hurt that continues to happen afterwards as a result of continued poor decisions and lack of accountability and responsibility. And I can already hear people, because I know that there is a sort of a way of being that's like, that really is this thing of like, get over it, like he doesn't care, like that's kind of the thing that we hear a lot. And like that to me is the problem. It is the problem that people are allowed to show up in this way, and we're just supposed to move on and allow it to happen because it's like they don't care, like get over it. For me, that really invalidates the experience of the person who does care, the person who was in integrity in their emotions and who was emotionally invested and continues to be in the healthy process of the system. It invalidates the fact that that person has feelings and that their experience is real, and it doesn't make you feel any better for someone to say they don't care, get over it. That does not make you feel any better. It actually is something for you to say to the person, I see you, I hear you, I see how this could hurt you. I see how this could be so hurtful. I see how this could be so frustrating. And I completely am here to listen to that frustration. That is what is going to help this person to feel seen and to feel heard and to feel healed. That's what's been helpful for me, is when I was able to say to some of those conversations, like, it's not helpful when you say he doesn't care or he's lying or he's doing this or that. That's not helpful. What's helpful is to be like, whoa, Chanel, that is a lot. Like, you didn't sign up for any of this. Like, you didn't ask for any of this. You're out here doing your best. And it's like, you just keep getting hit and hit and hit. And like, you just did not sign up for this and you don't deserve this. Like, that is actually what people are wanting to hear, is understanding and validation in their situation. So for me, because I knew I wasn't going to get the accountability from my ex, I went on my own healing journey, which I'm grateful I did. Again, I am a therapist and a healer, and I'm so glad I have the tools and the awareness and the ability to be with myself and to seek support and resources. And I have the emotional awareness to know what I need. And so I would honestly recommend so much that during this time, you really do have support, whether it's a therapist, whether it's friends and family, but you really are focused on healing yourself, because this person who is not taking responsibility, not taking accountability, they more likely than not are going to continue to do things that are hurtful to you because they're actually not considering you in their decisions. They're not considering the impact of their choices in their decisions. So they're going to continue to do hurtful things, which I was honestly not expecting. After the betrayal, I just thought that was it. I honestly didn't expect to like continue to get hurt afterwards. And so the fact that that is an option because they are detached from the consequences of their actions, from experiencing the emotional impact that they're having on you and on the family system, they're not learning from their mistakes. They're not learning anything because they're not actually feeling what they're doing. And so they're going to continue to do things that are going to be hurtful for you. So it is so important for you to focus on your own healing so that you are able to manage and to move through and to continue to be with yourself and to continue to stand up for yourself and love yourself, honestly, because if this is the person that you don't have children with, at some point you will be able to kind of go and live separate lives, as you're doing your healing work, and as that sort of emotional attachment gets mended and handled, you will go on and live your separate lives, which is beautiful. But if you are someone who is in a family system and there is going to be a connection to this person throughout, whether it's, because they're at family events or because just directly they are related to your children. And so, for me, because we were such a close family to begin with, there was like a line of love that was through all four of us. And so it was really important for me to keep that line of love clean and clear and to not have it toxic. So, I really wanted to be focused on, you're still my children's father. So your well-being is still important to me, because how you are feeling is going to directly impact them. And whatever impacts them is going to impact me. I can understand this. However, he is not able to understand that or see that as valid or valuable. And so I think for women, we end up taking this responsibility on, and it's really hard because it's hard to keep, trying to stop a fire that just keeps burning. Like it's not really a one person job. The other person also needs to take responsibility for themselves. And so yeah, so my efforts or my attempts of just trying to make sure that this family system was one that was still happy, still loving, still caring. I really wanted our kids to always feel like this is a safe space. You are safe in this family. You are loved in this family always. And like the feelings that were here and that are here, the love, the care is real. It is genuine. I still like I said, my ex-husband is directly connected to my children, and what impacts him impacts them. And so his well-being is still something that is important to me. And I no longer make it my responsibility, but it is something that is important to me. And that is a hard thing too, to have, the person who has hurt you the most in your entire life and has hurt people close to you the most in your entire life. You still have to hold them in high regard of what you hope for them, what you desire for them, because it directly impacts your kids. And I've seen the direct impact because I've seen what happens when that person is not well. I've seen what happens when that person is not making good choices. And I've seen the impact that it has on your children or on my children when that's the case. So it's difficult as the mother or as the person who is taking this role to be responsible for someone who isn't being responsible for themselves, which I am more and more understanding. And it's been about 3 years now, almost, since the betrayal was disclosed to me. So he had confessed. So it's been about 3 years since that confession date. And I'm finally getting to a point where I'm like, your feelings are no longer my responsibility. I no longer am taking responsibility for your emotions. I'm no longer trying to, um, yeah, like be responsible for the parts of this dynamic that you are not taking responsibility for. Our kids are older, they're more independent, they're more aware. I mean, my daughter's only 7, but still she's older than she was when it happened. My son's 17. So I feel like I can, like, there's more understanding. We've been in this space for about 3 years now. So there's more, maybe 2.5. And so there's more understanding of like this new way of relating, because to have that blind side, not only was I blindsided, but also our children were blindsided. And so it does take some time that I'm noticing to, there is an integration, there is intention, there is purposeful healing, but there is also time passing that does lead to the feeling of, okay, we're in this new space now. This is a new way of relating in this family dynamic, that he is sort of taking more maybe responsibility for himself, so that I'm able to back up out of that and like, trust more that this everything's going to be okay. So I do know that now that I'm kind of seeing time pass, I am seeing how that is able to happen. That like separation of like, okay, the impact is sort of minimized because the children are older, they understand more. We've kind of gotten through some of like the really hard stuff, and so now I can kind of take a step back. So yeah, if you're in that process, just know there will be a time, especially if you're intentional, where you are going to feel like you can sort of take a step back and focus on yourself more and allow the children to sort of be in their own understanding of things and allow that person to show up as they are, knowing that your kids are going to be healthy and happy and loved regardless, because you've kind of set the foundation for that. You've set a safe space, you've set the expectation, etc., that is what's going to happen. So that they know that they can always come to you with whatever it is that they are dealing with. And you know that you are always going to show up for yourself with whatever it is that you are dealing with, which is a really important thing. Because again, if you are waiting for this person to show up for you, or if you're waiting for anyone, whether it's a parent, whether it's a sibling, an ex-partner, an old friend, to give you what you need for you to heal, if they're unwilling or unable to do so, you will be waiting forever. And so you really need to take your healing into your own hands so that you can move through the things that you need to move through so that you can live the life that you deserve to live and you can love again, which is for me, my intention was to heal with my heart open. And I went through a lot in that process. I won't even get into all of the details, but there was a lot. There's a lot of hurt. There was a lot along those 2.5 years that I wasn't expecting to happen. And my intention of healing with my heart open was really the thing that got me through. Healing with my heart open, and also having a very open, loving relationship with my kids. That was like, because the family system is kind of like this, and I was like, okay, I need to make it so that the relationship with my kids is actually directly from me to them, and there's no more. This is how I kind of see things. There's no more like link. If there's the link isn't through my husband or part of that system, the link is from my heart like straight to theirs. And so that's kind of how I was had to like see things, was we have our own relationship now. And that intention really helped to shift things for me, really helped to heal things for me, really helped to heal a lot of different things for me, honestly. And I think, just kind of going off on a little rant here, but having an intention that you can continuously come back to, heal with your heart open. And well, that was mine, heal with my heart still open, and create a relationship with my kids that was directly my heart connected to theirs, like no longer in this family system. And then that was, with that intention, I was able to move forward. So I would notice things like, for me, I couldn't sustain like an anger or a resentment, because that, I noticed, had more of an impact on me than it actually did on the situation. And so I couldn't set a boundary based on anger, or I couldn't set a boundary based on resentment. I had to set a boundary based on my actual truth. And so in order for me to get to my truth, I actually had to move through anger and move through resentment and move through hatred, because I could feel the impact. If I had to hold hatred in order to set my boundaries, I could feel that it was actually impacting me more negatively than it was, because he wouldn't care. I'm over here with all this hatred and he's just not doesn't care. So like the hatred was having more of an impact on me than it was on the situation. So that was a lot to have to move through that to get to a firm truth, because essentially, if this is where we are in our relationship and it was a blind side, it wasn't something that we were choosing. So we really have to move through a lot of hurt, a lot of unworthiness, there's just so much insecurities, there's so much confusion. We're not always going to get all the answers that we're looking for. We might not even believe this person when they give answers, because of how many times that they've lied. And so there's a lot of inner work to move through, but if you move through it with intention, then you will get to where you want to be. I see far too many women who, they end up in this space where they're the emotionally responsible ones for their kids, and they don't take emotional responsibility for themselves. The ex-partner gets to kind of go off and do whatever they're doing, and they hold a lot of anger and resentment and bitterness towards that person, and literally it's not affecting that person at all. It's only affecting you. And that was one thing that I really needed to come back to. I was just not going to allow this person's decisions to make me a bitter, angry person, and to have that impact the way I was showing up in my life. So much, and I get it. Like, there you are going to be angry. Like, let me tell you, you're going to be angry, and you're going to feel fucking bitter, and you're going to feel hatred. Like, those are genuine feelings you're going to have. You're just not going to hold them. You're going to heal them. You're going to move through them. You're not going to hold on to them, because it's just not fair to you that has to be part of your experience because of somebody else's behaviors. It's not fair to you. And so, yes, you may feel anger, you may feel hatred, you may feel bitterness, you may feel resentment, but we want to be with those feelings so you can actually get to the hurt that's underneath them. And we might not want to feel that hurt. We might not want to deal with it, but dealing with that hurt is actually how you come back to yourself. Getting through the bitterness and through the anger and through the resentment and getting to the hurt, the genuine hurt that people are like, get over it, don't care. It's like, no, no, no. You need to honor the fact that this person has hurt you, that there was, and it's not something to be ashamed of, that you were hurt by somebody. It's honestly a testament to the fact that you were emotionally invested and emotionally in integrity in a relationship that required emotion. you are in a marriage and a relationship in love with somebody and that person hurt you, we have to expect that this is going to be hurtful, that there's going to be an unraveling of that. There's going to be an unraveling of that emotion. So if anyone is trying to, make you feel bad for caring, make you feel bad for being hurt, make you feel bad for that, or make you feel like you shouldn't, or make you feel stupid about it, that is a natural part of the process. You were emotionally invested in a relationship that required emotional investment, and those emotions were hurt. And now you're feeling them and experiencing them. That is part of the process. You want to come back to that hurt and heal that hurt so you can come back to yourself. It's not easy, it's not fancy, it's not lovely, but you being in integrity with yourself, coming back to yourself and not letting somebody else's decisions change who you are and how you see life and how you see people and how you see yourself is honestly so empowering, and it's really what you deserve to do in this process. Okay, let me see where I want to go from here. Okay. Uh, uh, uh. Yeah, I made some notes here just because I was honestly journaling about this because, yet again, there was another situation that in my opinion was mishandled. Because for me, for me, when, okay, so for me, my main message in all of this has been with my ex-husband has been, you were a married man. You were a married man. You were a father in a family system. There was a marriage. There was a relationship of 11 years. And we were a really close family at that. We did our foursome, did everything together. This is how everyone knew you in a marriage, in a family. Not only that, but there was a commitment. And not only that, but there was a genuine family. We were a genuine family. We had been through so much together. We were together from when we were both kind of pretty young, and we had been through so much. We had grown through so much. We had worked through so much together. It was a genuine family system. And then to betray that family system is one thing, but then to continue to dishonor it is another thing for me. To continue to make decisions without the consideration of honoring that family system, for me, is something that I actually cannot understand. I can't understand how you cannot consider, how is this going to impact my family and my kids? And how can I minimize that impact? That to me puts some respect on the family system that you were just in. It honors the family system that you were just in, and it recognizes the importance of that system. It's such a it's such a mind-blowing thing for me to not get this basic premise. You were a whole dad, you were a whole husband, you were in a whole family for 11 years. And then to just out of that family system make decisions as if none of that ever happened, as if none of that ever existed is is so strange to me. And my main message has always been, honor the family system that you destroyed. Honor the family system that you were in. Honor the family system that you were a part of. And this is a message for all men who are, carrying on the way that they're carrying on, and for some reason think that it's like justifiable or something, to behave in these ways where you can just impact people that you were so close to, that you shared space with, that you shared love with, to have such an emotional impact on children, on a woman who, you married at one point, so you had all intentions on being with that person. There was love there was connection there, etc. And to just feel like it's okay for you to make choices that don't honor this space and respect this space and respect the fact that you were a part of that space is it blows my mind. So my main message has always been just consider the fact that you were a whole husband in a whole family, and consider, how are my decisions going to impact that family system, and how can I minimize that impact? How can I put some respect and some honor on this family system that I was just a part of, and that, in many ways is a continued system. That has always been my main message, my main ask. And when there are things that, and just to furthermore enhance that, the wife that you betrayed and hurt, consider her experience, honor her experience. Consider, how is my decision going to impact her emotionally, because I have already impacted her emotionally enough? How can I minimize the emotional hurt on the person who I have already hurt so much? These to me are basic questions. These are basic things to ask yourself. And so if you are in a situation where the person is not taking that into consideration, let me tell you, I hear your frustration and I can understand how you are maybe like, seems like a basic concept to me, to just honor the fact that you were a whole husband and that these are your children. And, I'm not saying that my ex-husband is not a good dad, but not considering how your decisions are impacting your kids. This is what I'm this is what I'm not understanding. Sorry. There's like parts of me, it's been a 2.5 year process. So like parts of me have already processed a lot of things, like from the betrayal and from the relationship, like those parts have already been processed. I'm the relationship is something that is complete. That's not, but it's the continued mishandling of choices and how those impact the family system, the kids afterwards, and then the lack of consequence and taking responsibility, which leads to more continued mishandling, which leads to more hurtful experiences. That's where I'm like, really, like, how do you keep doing this, is sort of where my frustration comes from in this moment in time. um yeah, so is there anything else I want to say about that? Yeah, my main message again, not only to just, honor my own experience and share my own experience, because of it just feels a lot better to reclaim my power, reclaim my voice. The woman too, I think, spends a lot of time, or the hurt person. I'm saying woman because I do think that this is a female experience more often. But she does spend a lot of time also protecting the image of the ex-partner. The woman just honestly spends a lot of time. She goes into protection mode. She goes into protecting the kids. She goes into protecting her ex-partner. And a lot of the focus is taken off of her and her actual experience. And I'm thinking of so many women that I know who are holding emotional burdens that are not theirs to carry, who are holding emotional responsibilities that are not theirs to carry, because they were forced into and stepped into that role for their family, because the person who was sharing that role with them completely, gave up their responsibilities. And I just want to say to that woman, like, I see you, I hear you, you are so strong, you are so courageous. And I really implore you to come back to your own heart, to come back to your own self, to focus on your own healing, because you truly deserve to be loved, to be cared for. I deserve to be loved, to be cared for. I really just want, I just wrote here what I was wanting for myself. I just want the love from my heart to flow freely, and it's like I was saying to my ex-husband, like, I'm like anticipating the next thing you're gonna do, because every time I feel like I'm just like I feel fine, boom, it's like something comes in. I was feeling probably at my best, and I was teaching yoga classes, and again, another blind side, because when someone is just lacking consequences for their actions, they're just, behaving recklessly, and anything could happen. And so I was feeling really, really good, really just really nice. I had just finished my yoga teacher training, and I was, focused on myself, as I should be, focused on my kids, focused on what I was saying, building that line of love from me to my kids, and also loving myself more and doing what feels right for me. And then I get a phone call, my ex telling me that he got somebody pregnant. What? And then just from that point on, just continued mishandling of situations, and without consideration of the impact on me, the impact on, and I would say the impact on our kids too, but the impact on me. And I think that it's really important that to understand too that sometimes our children are not actually going to express to us how they're feeling in the moment. It's a lot. It's a lot for me. It's a lot for the kids. If you're the woman in the situation, I'm sure you can see when you're in the experience, this is a lot. The kids don't always know how they feel about something in the moment. And they might say little snippy things here and there that tell you kind of like later on when they feel more safe or when they feel more processed about the truth of how they're feeling about something. And so I always kind of leave that space open for my kids to move through whatever they're moving through, and sometimes they might be taking their frustrations out on you, which I think again happens a lot as a mom, where it's like the kid may be angry with the dad, but the frustrations are being taken out on the mom because this is just more of a safe space to do so, because the mom is going to hold the space and the mom is going to do something about it, as opposed to the dad might minimize it or display that they can't handle it or that it's not a safe space to bring that, because they are not demonstrating that they're making any changes based on how you're feeling anyways. And so the kid's like, well, if I bring it over here, it's not really going to do anything because this person is continuing to make choices. They haven't considered me in these choices in the first place. And so it doesn't feel like a safe space to bring that information over here. And so you might, as the mom, end up finding that your kids are lashing out at you more or being more upset and directing it towards you more. And I just kind of remind myself that this is just, how they're expressing this. And so I'll keep that space open. However, if you're carrying the emotional burden and if you're feeling a lot of hatred and resentment, that can add to it. And so it's so important to do your healing so that you can have space for those things. And so they don't continue to build up more resentment. I really hope that that me sharing this is going to help somebody see themselves in this, because I think that this is such a common experience and it is still so misunderstood and mishandled. And the woman is really not honored enough in how much emotional space she is holding and how much emotional responsibility she is taking on and how much emotional pain she is dealing with in her own experience of something that she herself is not creating, that she herself did not ask for, that she herself, it's not the result of her own decision making, it's the result of somebody else's decision making. um and because I am a healer and because I do believe in healing, whatever is coming up for you when someone is, doing the things that they're doing, I do find that that is for you to heal. So as my ex-husband was doing whatever he was doing, there was so many things coming up for me around like my own self-worth, my own, like I had this feeling of being unwanted, and I really had to look at that. I really had to heal what was coming up for me as a result of the decisions that he was making. This for me is how the real healing happens, is yeah, you're doing whatever you're doing, but it's making me feel certain ways about myself. And I'm not the one doing the behavior. So whatever is coming up for me based on what you're doing is for me to heal and for me to be with. And that is how I really was like, this is where my healing comes in. This is where I can take responsibility for myself, is I can notice when his behavior is making me feel unworthy, or his behavior is making me feel unloved, or his behavior is making me feel unwanted. And then I get to heal those parts of myself so that I can feel more worthy and more loved, and I can feel that I am going to be desired. Because when you're married to someone and then they cheat on you and then they don't choose to repair the relationship and then they continue to make bad decisions, then they get somebody else pregnant, it really has you feeling like, why would you choose that? Like, why would you not choose me? And so as I was noticing these things coming up, I'm like, okay, I want to heal these, because that is where a lot of the hurt comes from. And when women are like, oh, don't be stupid, he doesn't care about you, etc., it's like that doesn't really help that feeling of feeling unloved to say that someone doesn't care. And so it really is a matter of like, okay, I need to heal those feelings in myself, because that is actually where now our boundary comes from, a sustained place of self-worth and self-love, knowing that we are lovable, knowing that we are deserving, as opposed to having to hold anger and resentment to set that boundary. It actually comes from a true space of, I deserve better than this. I want better than this for myself. And it's from a genuine place. not from a place of I hate you, and so that's why I'm that's how I'm holding this boundary. For me, that was not sustainable. Not something I would choose for myself. I choose to hold my boundaries and hold my standards from a place of worthiness, not from a place of anger and resentment. So I'm kind of going on a little bit here. So what I did say that I wanted for myself is that I wanted my heart to flow freely, and it was doing that, except for when these random hurts would just show up, and then I'm like, "Ugh, what?" And I was to the point lately where I was really protecting my heart because I'm like, I kept opening it and it kept getting hurt, and I kept opening it, and it kept getting hurt, and so I was like, oh my God, my heart is just so sensitive right now. Like it's just so beat down that I just am like, oh man, like it's just hurt, like it's just been hit so many times. And so I really had to like be with myself around that because I just was like, Chanel, just be with yourself because yeah, your poor heart has just been hit so many times. And yeah, it made my heart really sensitive. The invalidation of my feelings and the impact of all this has just been a lot. Okay, so if you've been going through this and you're like, my heart feels so sore, I feel so tired, I hear you, and I want you to know that give yourself what you need. Like lately, I have been resting a lot. I would wake up and be like, I should go to yoga. And I'm like, I'm honestly just not getting out of bed. And so let yourself rest. Give yourself what you need. If you need to talk to someone, if you need to cry it out, if you need to do whatever you need to do, just let yourself do that. Um, but what I would say is do it in a way where you're healing and releasing, not in a way where you're holding on. You do not want to hold on to sadness and hurt and resentment. I literally this weekend. I my yeah, my eyes were so puffy from crying that I know I'm crying to release. I know I'm crying to heal. I know I'm crying to honor myself because my experience is valid and my emotions are valid. And as I do that, I move to a place of worthiness and feeling my own self worth and not to a place of hatred or resentment. Okay, so let me see if I have anything here. I just wanted to share my frustrations because I've noticed that these situations are common, so common, so common, but they're still misunderstood and they're still mishandled. There is so much onus on the woman or the hurt person to manage their feelings like in solitude, and be strong is a big one. And yes, you will find a level of strength in yourself that you didn't even know you had, and this is part of that process of like just really recognizing how strong you actually are emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually. You will be like, I am strong as fuck. And for me, I'm like, I don't need to handle anything else, please God. But it is a reinforcer for me of like, I'm proud of myself for handling things, for how I handle things, for who I am and how I'm showing up. And I'm proud of myself, honestly, in so many ways. I chose myself through this whole process. I chose to be in integrity. I chose to live with my intention. I chose to show up in a way that is loving and caring, even to the person who was hurting me the most. And not a forced love and care, just authentically, because if you're important to my kids, you're important to me. And that is just my mantra. That is just what is true for me, like if you're important to my kids, you're important to me. And that if something is going to impact my children, then I'm going to minimize that impact. But at the same time, honoring myself, at the same time loving myself, at the same time healing myself. There was no area here where there's self-sacrifice. There was sometimes where I because this person wasn't taking responsibility for themselves and was easily triggered by anything I was bringing to them about my hurt or about what they had done to me, and they couldn't hold the space for that. I would then bring that over here to my therapist or to people who were supporting me because I was like, if I bring that over here, this person gets triggered. They become like rendered completely, I don't want to say useless, but like just completely isolated or whatever, however that trigger would be managed or not managed by him. And so I quickly learned I can't bring my hurt to him because he can't handle it. I have to bring it over here because then he ends up in a space where he is emotionally unavailable and just however he self-destructive, whatever he was doing, and how that impacts the kids. I was like, I can't bring that over there. I have to bring it over here. So there are going to be times where you are sort of having to navigate certain things. Um, and just know that I see you. I was there too. Um, so yeah, I just needed to share this to express the I just needed to share this so that you can see that you are not alone. Um, and let me see. I just want to see what else I wrote here. Yeah, that you are not alone and that your experience is valid is my main thing. I want you to know your experience is valid. People who are telling you you need to move on, you need to get over it, they are not actually understanding your experience, because if we could just do that, I guarantee you we would do that. And if you want to heal properly, if you want to heal with intention and not just sort of shut your heart off and then get into another relationship, which is something I did not want to do. I did not want to, the last thing I wanted to do was just get into another relationship. And then now my kids are looking at me like, what? You know, and I feel like that happens so much where, sometimes we just get into another relationship and we think that that's how we're going to heal. I personally don't think that's the right way to do it. I think that that relationship doesn't end up having access to your whole heart anyways. And I think that it ends up being something that isn't actually healthy or good for you either. Um, you're going to feel loneliness. I say move through it, heal it, learn how to be with yourself, learn how to love yourself, learn how to build other relationships. But to jump into another romantic relationship after that, if you are not fully healed and if you still are holding hate and anger and resentment to your ex-partner, I honestly would not encourage that, especially if you have kids, because it's very confusing to be in a family and then to have this person now over here and this person now over here, and it's only been like a year or something like that, is just for me confusing. And I do find a lot of men do that. They just go from the relationship right into something else, and it might not be a relationship, it might just be a sexual relationship, whatever it is, but they spend no time actually doing any of the work. Very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. But if you were to see me 3 years ago to now, I'm a whole different person. I am more confident. I am more strong. I'm more independent. I'm more loving. I'm more open. I'm more authentic. And it's because I healed with intention to keep my heart open and to build a line of love that was between myself and my children. And this really just led the way to more healing and more authenticity. So, for anyone else who's going through this, maybe this gives you more language for what you're going through, that feeling of frustration that you're experiencing, of not feeling emotionally validated, that feeling of being disrespected or not feeling seen or recognized. I just want you to know that your experience as the woman in this situation is so valid, so valid. I like, as for me, for most women, you also end up being the primary caregiver to your children after this. Okay. So you and your experience, because it's so common, I feel like it gets so invalidated, but your experience is valid. Your experience is valid as the person who was hurt, as the person who was betrayed, as the person who's taking emotional responsibility, as the person who was doing her absolute best to show up for her kids and herself in a healthy way to undo any of the pain that was caused in the process. Your experience is validated. Okay. And know that when your emotions are genuine, when your heart was pure and your intentions were aligned with the life that you had committed to, there will be a process of healing. And do not be embarrassed or ashamed of that process. Do not be embarrassed or ashamed of the fact that there is hurt, that there is anger, that there is pain, that there is sadness, that there is insecurity, that there is doubt, that there is confusion. Do not be embarrassed by any of that. You were in integrity, you were emotionally invested, and this is the result of being hurt in a place where emotions were there and emotions were pure and emotions were real. Okay? Do not be ashamed of the fact that you are having to heal and move through this. And if you get completely angry and rageful and just want to go the fuck off, That's also part of the process. So let yourself have a space to release your anger, to release your rage, because that is really important. If you suppress your rage and your anger, you will feel more sadness. You will feel your power kind of deplete. It's so important to be able to access that, to be able to access your no, to be able to access your I've had enough of this, to be able to access absolutely not. It's so important to get to that point, and you get to this point by honoring the fact that you'd feel anger and rage, but you do not hold on to the anger and rage, because you do not deserve to live a life that is stifled by unprocessed anger and rage. You deserve to live an open life with your heart open, because you do not deserve to carry the consequences of someone else's behaviors and actions. So process what needs to be processed, release what needs to be released, heal what needs to be healed. That anger, it's important, because there's a point where you're like, that's fucking enough. And that's a really important point to get to, so that you can be in your worth, that you can be in your value, and that you can have your standards and your expectations be where they need to be. But even with all that, don't ever let someone else's behavior cause you to lose sight of your own heart, of your own truth, and of your own intentions. I see you, I feel you, I am you, I love you, and thank you for listening.